Hello everybody. Today we discuss physiology of electrocardiogram part 3. In the previous two sections we have learned regarding basic physiology of ECG, different waves of ECG and different leads, that is 12 different leads which are used to record ECG from 12 different angles. Now in today's lecture we'll see clinical importance of electrocardiogram under these three heads, that is cardiac axis or cardiac vector, then different heart blocks which can be diagnosed by ECG, and very important and most common condition which is encountered in clinical practice, that is the myocardial infarction. So IMG or Indian medical graduate must know these features of at least ECG. So up till now we have learned this basics of ECG. We have seen that the first positive wave, that is P wave in the ECG, is caused due to atrial depolarization. Then first negative wave, that is Q wave, is due to interventricular septal depolarization from left to right. Then this tall big wave, that is R wave, is due to ventricular depolarization. Then this negative S wave is caused by last base of the heart to get depolarized. Then we get this three segments, this and this, that is, these are called as isoelectric potential phase, in which the heart is silent, neither depolarization neither repolarization, impulse silent. And this last wave, which is positive, called as T wave, is due to ventricular depolarization. Now these are the 12 different leads which are used to record the ECG. In this are 9 unipolar leads. Out of these are the 3 limb leads, AVR, AVL and AVF, which we have seen last time. The different pictures of ECG after recording from AVR, that is augmented limb lead right side, augmented limb lead left side and augmented lead from the foot. And we are recorded from the chest, 6 different chest leads placed on the chest horizontally, and these 3 bipolar leads, that is 1, 2 and 3. So these bipolar limb leads, they are recording the potential difference across the 2 active electrode, one is positive and one is negative. This is the typical ECG graph of the lead 2, which is the maximum amplitude is visible in this lead 3 and lead 1, and according to this Enthuen's law, this amplitude of lead 1 and lead 3 are equal to lead 2. This is Enthuen's law. Now this you can see here from 12 different angles, 6 chest leads. This is the ECG graph which you have recorded, and classically you can see the height of R wave is increasing and height of S wave is decreasing, you can see in this one. Okay, so this is the classical way of finding R wave is smallest at V1 and S is tallest at V1, and R wave is tallest as V6 and S is smallest at the V6. Okay, and these are the different limb leads and bipolar and unipolar leads. Now how to find the axis of heart, that is cardiac vector. It is also called as vector or cardiac axis. Now for this we are using these bipolar leads, lead 1, lead 2, lead 3. We are using this 3 lead to find the cardiac vector. Cardiac vector means basically it's the direction of electrical force of heart. In what direction it is, whether it is on right direction or deviation to the right or deviation to the left. Now for this what we do, we take a lead 1, we find the amplitude, maximum amplitude of positive as well as negative. Positive is the R wave, negative is the S wave. Now you can see here it is very small point, it is 5 millivolt is the positive and negative is almost 0. So if you take plus 5 and minus 0, this will be 5 millivolt, 5 millimeter. So from the center point, this is the center point, where as it is a positive we are going 5. Okay, so this is the 5 millimeter from the center. Okay, similarly for this lead 2, where we are having maximum amplitude, see the maximum height you can see here it is almost 16 millivolt, and negative height you can see here of the whichever negative it is -1. So Q wave is negative here. So we take maximum positive and maximum negative. Okay. So positive height is of maximum is R wave is 16, and here you can see the small Q wave is there, which is -1. So it becomes 15 millivolt. Again, it is a positive. So from the center we are moving 15 millimeters from here. Okay. So like this we are making this, and now the third one, this third lead, in that you can see maximum positive is 11 and negative is 1, so it is plus 10. So plus 10 means again it will go from here 1. Okay, so like this from the center we are making this 3 points. Now we join all this one. Now first we join this, okay, like this. So this we draw from here, this we draw from here, okay. Now this we draw from this one, okay, like this, and we can join this one. So once we join from the center, now this is the point comes. So if you join this, this is the cardiac axis. Now you can see this cardiac axis here, you can find this is 0, plus 60, 120, 180, and here it is minus 60. Okay, like this. You can check in this where it is matching. You can see it is coming here. Okay, like this. So normal cardiac axis, this is the cardiac vector. So indicate the magnitude and direction of electromotive force generated in the heart. Normal direction of mean QRX vector is from -30 to plus 110. So this is the normal range. So if you go back in this, here we can see like this. Sorry, means normal range is between this to this. So if the cardiac direction of this is between anywhere like this, so normal range is this to this. So this black, if it is here, directions like this, so in this range it is a normal, okay. And if it is going like this, the vector is going like this, so this will label as right side deviation because it is going to the right side. And if this vector, if it is going like this or like this, it will indicate left axis deviation, okay. So normal direction is -30 to 110. Left axis deviation, axis falls to the left of -30. Right axis deviation, axis falls to the right of plus 110. And right axis deviation indicates right ventricular hypertrophy. So this cardiac axis or vector will indicate hypertrophy, and left axis deviation will indicate left ventricular hypertrophy. So this is the clinical significance of knowing the axis of the heart. So we are finding from the bipolar limb leads. Now, as I've told you in the last lecture, physiological variations can show this. This is the vertical of heart and transverse. So if a person is taking a deep inspiration, if he takes a deep expiration, diaphragm is pushed up like this and heart will be more flat. Okay, so it may get that you might get some left axis deviation if the person takes a deep inspiration. On the contrary, if he takes deep inspiration, diaphragm will come down like this, heart will be more tubular, so it may go towards the axis, can go like this, instead of this it will come like this also. So we have to consider these physiological variations. And a tall heighted individual, very tall, heart can be like this, vertical. Short-headed individual, heart will be like this. So we have to consider this anatomical variation while recording ECG and labeling this axis deviation also. Now we'll see what is the importance of PR interval in finding the abnormalities in the heart. Now in this first ECG you can see this is the P wave. Okay. So this is the PR interval. Now subsequent, you can see all this one. You see this, and now you can see here. Here you can see there is increase in PR interval. So gradually in this ECG you can see from here to there, if you keenly observe, PR interval is increasing gradually, slowly. Normally what should happen, PR interval should be constant. In each and every beat, PR interval should be constant, but you can see the PR interval here, and you can see PR interval here, it is increased, it is beyond 0.2 millimeters. Okay, so this is called as first degree of heart block. In this you are observing there is slow prolongation of PR interval, but beat are not missed. You are getting all QRS complex after every P wave. So gradual prolongation of PR interval is called as first degree of heart block. So if you observe in a ECG, subsequent in heartbeats, if you observe there is increase in PR interval, so you should think that there is some problem between conduction between SE node to AV node. Some problem is there. So that is called as first degree of heart block. And then second type, you can see here P wave and P wave. In between now one QRS complex is absent. So absent beats are there. Now that can be after every 2 P waves or after every 3 P waves. So this is called as second degree of heart block. Means one QRS complex is absent. Not all P waves are reaching not all impulse from SE node are reaching the ventricle. You are getting P wave, after that one P QRS complex is absent. That means impulse has not reached the ventricle. Ventricle is not depolarized. So that is a missed beat. So it can be 2:1 or 3:1. 3:1 means after every 3 P wave you get QRS complex. 2:1 means after every 2 P wave you get QRS complex. So this is called as second degree of heart block. And in some condition, one more condition is there is gradual prolongation of PR interval followed by one missed beat. That is called as Wenckebach's phenomena. Okay, so that is a combination of 1 and 2. There is gradual prolongation of PR interval followed by one missed beat. So that is called as Wenckebach's phenomena. And in third one, you get total dissociation between atria and ventricle. You are getting P waves at regular interval and Q wave at irregular intervals. But there is no correlation between P and QRS complex. Atria is contracting at its own rate, ventricle contracting at its own rate. So that is called as complete AV dissociation, or it is called as complete heart block. Means all impulses are not reaching the ventricle. Atria contracting at its own rate, ventricle contracting at its own rate. So it is called as third degree of heart block or complete AV dissociation. So these are the 3 different types of heart blocks which can be detected by ECG. Commonly, so many are there. I am explaining the common one. When conduction between atria and ventricle is slowed but not completely interrupted, it is called as incomplete heart block or first degree of heart block. In second degree of heart block, not all atrial impulses are conducted to the ventricle. For example, ventricle beat may follow every second or third atrial beat. So that is 2:1 or 3:1 block. In another form of incomplete heart block, there are a repeated sequence of beats in which PR interval lengthens progressively until a ventricular beat is dropped. So it is called as Wenckebach's phenomena. And this is the third. PR interval of cardiac cycle follows each drop beat is usually normal or slowly, only slightly prolonged. Now, this is the very important condition which we can diagnose by our ECG, that is a myocardial infarction. Now in this, what is happening? Whenever there is a damage to cell due to infarction, defect in the infarcted cell, now the cell membrane gets damaged, there is a potassium outflow takes place as cell is damaged. So because of this, there is rapid repolarization. So out of infarct, the current start to flow, current is there. That will give ST segment elevation in the leads near the site. So this is the prominent sign of myocardial infarction. If you are getting ST segment elevation, this will indicate a myocardial infarction. In other, you get T wave depression. So this is usually opposite lead to the site of, for example, if it is a right ventricle, you get elevation opposite way, in opposite lead you get a depression. So the hallmark of acute myocardial infarction is basically elevation of ST segment in the lead overlying the area of infarction. Leads on the opposite side of heart shows ST segment depression. Common changes include again appearance of Q wave in some of the lead in which it was previously absent. So prominent Q wave usually indicate old infarction, that is a persistent change, and an increase in the size of normal Q wave in some of the other leads, although so-called non-Q wave infarcts are also seen. So these are the three classical signs of myocardial infarction in the ECG: ST segment elevation and ST segment depression in the opposite leads. These are the classical changes which are seen. ST segment elevation you can see in some leads, and other one you get T wave inversion also. So these are the classical changes visible, and here you can see in this you can see prominent Q wave. Here also prominent Q wave is there. Okay, so these are the three classical signs of myocardial infarction, and these are basically due to current of injury. Because of damage of the infarcted cell, potassium comes out. So when a normal current is coming, because of this you get change in deflections, direction current changes. So this is called as current of injury. So just to summarize, we have learned today clinical importance of ECG under these heads, that is cardiac access, heart blocks and myocardial infarction. So here we are completing physiology of on clinical significance of electrocardiogram. Thank you.